Signal in the void. The research vessel Prometheus drifted through the outer reaches of the Cygnus arm, its sleek hull reflecting the distant starlight like a sliver of polished obsidian. Commander Eliza Reeves stood at the observation deck, her silhouette framed against the backdrop of a nebula that painted the void in hues of crimson and azure. 30 years of space exploration had etched fine lines around her eyes, but they still held the same curiosity that had driven her to the stars. "Commander, we're picking up something unusual." Lieutenant Park's voice came through the ship's comm system. "Quantum fluctuations at coordinates 227 Mark 43. Never seen a pattern like this before." Eliza's neural implant pinged as the data streamed directly into her consciousness. The signal was indeed unlike anything in their databases, a rhythmic pulsation that seemed to defy the known laws of physics. "Adjust course, Lieutenant. Let's take a closer look." As the Prometheus altered its trajectory, Science Officer Dr. Maya Chen analyzed the incoming data. "It's not random, Commander. There's a clear mathematical sequence embedded in the signal, almost like someone's trying to get our attention." Eliza finished, her intuition honed by decades among the stars. "Full sensor sweep and alert Earth command about our detour." The signal grew stronger as they approached, emanating from a small planetoid orbiting a dying star. Surface scans revealed artificial structures, geometric patterns too precise to be natural formations. Humanity had encountered only 3 other spacefaring species in its expansion across the stars, and none had ventured this far from the galactic core. "Establishing orbit," announced Navigator Rodriguez, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "Stable position achieved." Eliza studied the planetoid's surface through enhanced imaging. "Prepare a landing party. Standard first contact protocols. Dr. Chen, you'll lead the scientific team. Lieutenant Park, security detail." The descent to the planetoid was uneventful, their shuttle touching down on a flat expanse of metallic ground that hadn't been forged by natural processes. The landing party emerged into an atmosphere that their suits declared breathable but alien, higher oxygen content, traces of noble gases in unusual concentrations. "The signals coming from that structure." Dr. Chen pointed toward a towering spire that rose from the landscape like a crystalline needle reaching for the stars. As they approached, the ground beneath them hummed with energy. The entrance to the spire appeared as they drew near, a doorway that seemed to phase into existence rather than simply open. "Fascinating," whispered Dr. Chen. "The entire structure appears to exist partially out of phase with our dimensional plane. Inside, the walls pulsed with bioluminescent light that responded to their presence." The team advanced cautiously until they reached a central chamber where a cylindrical device stood, its surface covered in symbols that shifted and changed as if alive. "It's some kind of archive," Dr. Chen said, her eyes wide with wonder as her scanner translated the shifting symbols. "Or perhaps a beacon. It's broadcasting data about everything. Star maps, biological information, mathematical principles." Lieutenant Park moved closer to the device. "Is it some kind of library, or a warning?" The answer came without warning. The symbols on the device froze, then rearranged themselves into a new pattern that projected a 3-dimensional image into the center of the chamber. A ship, unlike any human vessel, with organic curves and technological components that seemed to merge with living tissue. "Commander," Dr. Chen's voice had lost its wonder, replaced by urgent concern. "This isn't just an archive. It's a distress beacon. Whoever built this was running from something." The projected image expanded, showing dozens, then hundreds of the alien ships converging on a star system. The star collapsed in on itself, forming a black hole that consumed everything in its vicinity. The final image showed a single escape vessel, heading toward the edge of the galaxy. "They destroyed an entire star system," Eliza breathed. "But why show us this?" The answer came as a tremor shook the structure. Alarms blared from their equipment as Lieutenant Park's tactical display lit up with warnings. "Commander, multiple objects entering orbit. They don't match any known configuration. Eliza's neural implant flashed urgent updates. Unknown vessels had appeared from what appeared to be a localized space-time distortion. The Prometheus was already engaging emergency protocols, its AI captain preparing defensive measures. Back to the shuttle. Now, Eliza ordered, her command training taking over. Dr. Chen, download whatever data you can from this device. They raced back through the structure as the planetoid surface began to buckle and shift. The shuttle lifted off just as massive tentacles of energy erupted from the ground, reaching toward them with predatory intent. Captain Singh to Commander Reeves. The Prometheus' voice was unnaturally calm through the chaos. Unknown hostiles have engaged our defensive systems. Recommend immediate extraction and emergency jump. The shuttle docked with the Prometheus as the ship's shields flared under attack. Through the viewports, Eliza saw them. Vessels that matched the projections from the beacon. Organic technology merged with metallurgy in ways that defied human engineering. They moved with unnatural precision, encircling the Prometheus in a hunting formation. All hands, prepare for emergency jump. Captain Singh announced shipwide. Commander Reeves to the bridge immediately. As Eliza rushed to the bridge, the ship shuddered under another impact. Damage reports flooded her neural implant. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 7. Power fluctuations in the drive core. Communications array severely damaged. They're jamming our quantum comms, reported Communications Officer Larson, her fingers working frantically across her station. Standard channels too. We can't reach Earth Command. The tactical display showed their situation in stark clarity. 7 hostile vessels, each larger than the Prometheus, methodically targeting critical systems. They weren't trying to destroy the ship. They were trying to disable it. They want us alive, Lieutenant Park realized. Or they want the ship intact. Captain Singh's holographic form flickered beside Eliza. Drive core at 93% charge. Jump capability in 30 seconds. Another impact sent crew members tumbling as artificial gravity briefly failed. The lights dimmed, emergency systems activating across the ship. They're scanning us. Dr. Chen reported from the science station, her face ashen. Not just our systems. They're scanning our bodies, our neural implants. It's like they're cataloging us. A new alert flashed across the tactical display. One of the alien vessels had launched smaller craft, heading directly for the Prometheus's hull. Boarding parties. Drive core at 100%, announced Captain Singh. Jump coordinates. Eliza made her decision in an instant. Not Earth. We can't leave them home. She pulled up the star charts, selecting a system far from any human colony. Here, the Vega outpost. That's a minimal installation, Commander, objected Navigator Rodriguez. Limited defenses, skeleton crew. Exactly, Eliza nodded grimly. But it has what we need. A beacon. Understanding dawned on the bridge crew's faces. The beacon, humanity's last resort emergency communication system. Designed after the colony wars, it could transmit a distress signal that would be received by every human neural implant, ship, and installation simultaneously. The Prometheus shuddered as the boarding craft attached to its hull. Cutting tools began to slice through the outer plating. Jump initiated, Captain Singh announced, and the stars outside blurred as space-time folded around them. The ship emerged near Vega Outpost, trailing debris and venting atmosphere from multiple breaches. The hostile vessels hadn't followed immediately. The jump had at least bought them time. Damage report, Eliza demanded. Life support at 62% and falling, reported Engineering Officer Walters. Main drive offline. Auxiliary power failing. We have maybe 20 minutes before critical systems failure. Communications Officer Larson looked up from her station, her expression grim. Commander, I'm detecting quantum distortions forming. They're following us. Eliza nodded, having expected this. Lieutenant Park, prepare a security team to evacuate critical personnel to the outpost. Dr. Chen, gather all data on our encounter and what you downloaded from the beacon. "What about you, Commander?" asked Captain Singh, its holographic face showing simulated concern. Eliza's expression hardened with determination. "I'm going to activate the beacon." The evacuation proceeded with practiced efficiency even as the ship's condition deteriorated. Eliza made her way to a secured section of the bridge, placing her palm against a scanner that had remained dormant since the ship's commissioning. The panel slid away, revealing a crystalline device no larger than her fist. The beacon trigger. "Commander Eliza Reeves, authorization Omega-7 Theta," she spoke clearly. "Initiating Sentinel Protocol." The device hummed to life, scanning her neural implant to verify her identity and authority. A holographic interface appeared, displaying a message that had never before been seen outside of simulations. "Sentinel Protocol activated. Distress signal will alert all human installations, vessels, and in URL in intergalactic. Confirm activation." Eliza hesitated only for a moment. The beacon was meant for extinction-level threats, the kind that warranted mobilizing every human asset across explored space. Once activated, there would be no standing down until the threat was neutralized. Through the viewport, she saw the first signs of the alien vessels emerging from their quantum tunnels. Decision made. "Confirm activation," she stated firmly. The device pulsed once, then sent a wave of energy through the ship and outward in all directions, traveling faster than light through quantum subspace, a ripple that would reach every corner of human space almost instantly. Across the stars, on Earth and its colonies, on ships and stations, in the neural implants of billions of humans, the same message appeared with perfect clarity. "Sentinel Protocol activated. Hostile Firest Tivamentate at VEGA outpost. All military ASSETs, kill and VRG. All civilian vessels provyde superiority as capable." This is not a drill. As Eliza watched the alien vessels surrounding her crippled ship, she felt an odd sense of calm. Humanity had always feared being alone in the universe. Now they'd faced something perhaps worse. The knowledge that they were not alone, and that what awaited them among the stars was hunger. The Prometheus shuddered as the first boarding craft attached. Eliza turned away from the viewport, her hand resting on her sidearm. Whatever these creatures were, they were about to learn a fundamental truth about humanity. Never corner a species that clawed its way from a single planet to the stars through sheer determination and the refusal to accept extinction. The fury of Earth. Admiral Helena Kane stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Retribution, her weathered face illuminated by the holographic tactical display showing real-time updates from across human space. 30 years of military service hadn't prepared her for the scale of what she was witnessing. The greatest mobilization in human history, initiated by a single distress call. "Status report," she demanded, her voice carrying the weight of command. Strategic Officer Commander Vega responded instantly. "Sentinel Protocol has triggered mobilization across all colonies and Earth-based assets. First responders will reach Vega Outpost in approximately 47 minutes, civilian mining vessels from the Arcturus Belt. Military response close behind with the 7th Fleet arriving in under 2 hours." "And the Prometheus?" Kane asked, though she suspected the answer. "Last transmission indicated critical systems failure," Vega replied solemnly. "Life pods launched, but we've lost contact with Commander Reeves." Kane nodded grimly. She had served with Eliza Reeves during the colony wars, a brilliant officer who understood that sometimes sacrifices were necessary. "What do we know about the hostiles?" Science advisor Dr. Imani Okafor stepped forward, her neural implant projecting data into the shared tactical display. "The data package transmitted with the beacon activation is concerning. We're calling them the Vrel Collective based on phonetic approximations in the beacon's archives. They appear to be a composite species, part biological, part technological, with a hive mind structure. They travel between star systems using artificial quantum tunnels, consuming resources, and collecting biological specimens. Harvesting, Kane corrected bluntly. They're harvesting species. Yes, Okafor nodded. The ancient race that built the warning beacon encountered them 5,000 years ago. The Vrel systematically harvested their population, studied their technology, then used it to collapse their star into a black hole. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't a misunderstanding or territorial dispute. It was an existential threat. Kane turned to Communications Officer Lieutenant Reed. Open a channel to all responding vessels, military and civilian. The officer nodded, and Kane faced the camera drone that hovered before her. Her image would be transmitted to every ship answering the call. This is Admiral Helena Kane of Earth Fleet. By now, you've all received the Sentinel Protocol alert. I'm authorizing implementation of War Plan Omega. This is not a conflict over resources or territory. This is a fight for survival. The Vrel Collective has demonstrated hostile intent against humanity and a history of exterminating other species. We will deny them that victory. She paused, letting her words carry weight. To our civilian vessels, your courage honors humanity. Coordinate with military assets for evacuation operations and support roles. To my military commanders, you are authorized to engage with extreme prejudice. The Vrel must learn that humanity is not prey to be harvested. We are the descendants of predators who refuse to die on a single world. The Retribution shuddered slightly as it accelerated toward Vega Outpost, its massive engines pushing the dreadnought to speeds that strained structural integrity. Around it, dozens of warships matched pace. Cruisers, destroyers, and carriers, each filled with soldiers and pilots prepared to defend their species. Admiral, Commander Vega interrupted. First visual contact from Arcturus mining vessels approaching Vega. The tactical display shifted, showing footage from the lead mining ship. The Vega Outpost, a small research and communication station, was surrounded by 7 massive vessels, unlike anything in human records. They resembled enormous nautilus shells with pulsating lights along their organic-looking hulls. The Prometheus drifted nearby, its hull breached in multiple locations, lifeless. Magnify Sector 4, Kane ordered, her eyes narrowing at something near the research vessel. The image zoomed in on several smaller craft, moving between the Prometheus and one of the Vrel ships. They appeared to be transferring cargo, human-sized cargo in stasis containers. Survivors, whispered Lieutenant Reed. Prisoners, corrected Kane. Tactical, how many mining vessels have reached the perimeter? 14, Admiral. 4 more minutes until they're in weapons range. Order them to hold position, Kane commanded. They're not equipped for direct engagement. Have them focus on recovery operations for any escape pods that made it away from the Prometheus. The next hour unfolded with the precision of a well-rehearsed operation as military vessels began arriving at Vega Outpost. The Vrel ships reacted with apparent surprise to the rapid human response, their formations shifting defensively. They didn't expect us to respond so quickly, Kane observed, or in such numbers. The beacon, Dr. Okafor suggested. They couldn't have known about the Sentinel Protocol. No species they've encountered before had anything like it. The tactical display updated as the 7th Fleet arrived, forming a battle sphere around the Vrel vessels. Fighter squadrons launched from carriers, their formations tightening as they prepared for attack runs. Admiral, Commander Vega reported, we're detecting energy buildups in the Vrel vessels. They appear to be preparing to open quantum tunnels. They're trying to escape, Kane realized. Deploy quantum disruption fields. I want those tunnels collapsed before they can form. The order spread through the fleet, specialized equipment activating to destabilize the fabric of space-time around the Vrel ships. Their escape routes closed before they fully formed, trapping them at Vega. All vessels in position, announced Tactical Officer Commander Zohir. Awaiting your command. Kane studied the display one final time. The Vrel outnumbered, outgunned, with no escape. But cornered predators were the most dangerous. Begin recovery operation for the captured humans first. Then, Combat operations. The battle erupted with coordinated precision. Specialized boarding craft launched from human destroyers, protected by fighter screens as they approached the Vrel vessel holding the human prisoners. Meanwhile, the main fleet engaged the other Vrel ships, keeping them occupied. On the tactical display, Kane watched as the boarding teams breached the alien hull. Their helmet cameras transmitted real-time footage of the interior, organic corridors that seemed to pulse with life, chambers filled with specimens from unknown species preserved in transparent containers, and technology beyond human understanding. Admiral. Dr. Okafor's voice held an edge of horror. The boarding teams have located some of the Prometheus crew. They're being systematically dissected, studied while still alive. Kane's expression hardened further. Recovery teams, get our people out. Then set neutron charges throughout that vessel. The battle intensified as the Vrel realized the human intent. Their ships began releasing thousands of smaller craft, drone-like entities that swarmed toward the human fleet. Targeted EMP bursts, ordered Kane, followed by point defense systems. The space around Vega Outpost lit up with weapons fire as the human fleet executed her commands with lethal efficiency. The Vrel drones fell by the thousands, but more kept coming, sacrificing themselves to protect their motherships. Recovery teams report success. Admiral, announced Commander Vega. 27 survivors extracted from the Prometheus. Medical teams receiving them now. And Commander Reeves. A pause. No sign of her. Admiral. Kane nodded silently. The cost of command. Decisions that save many but often cost the decision-maker everything. All recovery teams clear the target vessel, she ordered. Detonate charges. The Vrel ship imploded, collapsing in on itself as neutron charges disrupted its structural integrity at the atomic level. The remaining 6 Vrel vessels seemed to recoil collectively, as though sharing the pain of their destroyed companion. They're coordinating, observed Dr. Okafor, studying sensor data. Quantum entanglement signatures suggest they're communicating faster than light. They're adapting to our tactics. Kane watched as the Vrel ships formed a new pattern, their weapons focusing on specific human vessels rather than spreading their fire. 3 destroyers reported critical damage within minutes. They learn quickly, she acknowledged. So must we. Deploy phase shift missiles, target their propulsion systems. The human fleet adjusted, launching specialized warheads that shifted partially out of normal spacetime, bypassing the Vrel shields to detonate against their engines. 2 more Vrel vessels lost mobility, drifting helplessly. Admiral. Lieutenant Reed interrupted urgently. We're detecting multiple quantum disruptions at the edge of the system. Massive energy signatures. The tactical display expanded to show dozens of new contacts emerging from quantum tunnels. More Vrel ships, larger than the first wave. Reinforcements, Kane stated flatly. They called for help. For a moment, doubt flickered across the faces of her bridge crew. The odds had just shifted dramatically against them. Sir, Commander Vega's voice held resignation. Recommend strategic withdrawal to defensive positions around Earth and the core colonies. We can establish a perimeter. No, Kane interrupted firmly. We hold here. Admiral, with respect, Vega pressed. We're outnumbered 3-1. Kane's lips curved into a tight smile as she watched her tactical display. Are we, Commander? As if on cue, new alerts flashed across the display. Hundreds of contacts dropping out of FTL at the system's edge. But these weren't Vrel ships. These were human vessels of every description. Military ships from distant patrols, civilian transports, colony defense forces, mining platforms retrofitted with weapons, even luxury yachts carrying emergency supplies and medical teams. The Sentinel Protocol. Dr. Okafor breathed in wonder. Every human vessel capable of reaching us. Humanity united, Kane finished. For the first time since the colony wars, every human faction, every settlement, every ship has answered the call. She turned to her communications officer. Lieutenant Reed, broadcast on all channels, military and civilian protocols. execute hammer and anvil. The human fleet moved with synchronized purpose, splitting into two massive formations. The military vessels, the hammer, drove directly toward the heart of the Vrel fleet, while the civilian and support ships, the anvil, spread out to encircle them, cutting off retreat. The battle that followed would later be called the Vega Convergence, the moment humanity demonstrated that its true strength lay not in technology or numbers, but in its unique ability to act as a single entity when threatened. Mining lasers recalibrated to military specifications cut through Vrel hulls. Civilian cargo haulers deployed literal tons of reactive metals into space where Vrel drones flew, creating clouds of explosive particles. Medical ships rescued crews from damaged vessels, while engineers from luxury yachts helped repair critical systems on military craft without ever having trained for combat operations. At the center of it all, the Retribution drove straight toward the largest Vrel vessel, their apparent command ship. The dreadnought's weapons tore through the alien defenses, creating an opening for a wing of bombers to deliver their payloads directly to the Vrel ship's core. Admiral Commander Zahir reported with barely contained excitement. The Vrel command vessel is showing critical power fluctuations. Their coordination is breaking down. Kane nodded, watching as the massive alien ship began to list to one side, its lights flickering. Press the advantage. All ships converge on remaining targets. As the human fleet closed in for the kill, something unexpected happened. The remaining Vrel vessels stopped firing. One by one, they began self-destructing, their hulls collapsing inward in implosions that left nothing but debris. "They're giving up?" Lieutenant Reed asked incredulously. "No," Dr. Okafor corrected, studying her data. "They're denying us access to their technology." And she paused, eyes widening. "Admiral, I'm detecting a quantum transmission from the dying command vessel. It's being broadcast toward the galactic core. A warning to others of their kind," Kane realized. "They're telling the rest of the Vrel collective about us." The bridge fell silent as the implications became clear. This wasn't the end. It was merely first contact. "Recovery operations," Kane ordered, breaking the silence. "I want every piece of Vrel technology we can salvage, and prepare a full tactical analysis of everything we've learned about their capabilities." As the fleet began the process of securing the battlefield, a medical officer approached Kane with a datapad. "Admiral, you should see this. One of the survivors from the Prometheus. It's Commander Reeves." Kane's stoic expression cracked slightly in surprise. "Reeves is alive?" "Barely, sir. She was in one of the stasis chambers, partially processed. But our medical teams think she'll recover. And, sir, she managed to download something from the Vrel systems before she was captured. Star charts, locations of Vrel worlds." For the first time since the crisis began, Admiral Kane allowed herself a genuine smile. "Get me a secure channel to Earth Command. We need to prepare for what comes next." As rescue operations continued around her, Kane stood at the viewport of the Retribution, gazing out at the assembled human fleet, thousands of vessels, military and civilian, working in perfect harmony. The Vrel had made a critical error in targeting humanity. They had seen a fragmented species spread across dozens of worlds and hundreds of settlements, seemingly divided by politics and distance. What they failed to understand was that humans had evolved as pack hunters on a dangerous world. When threatened, the pack didn't scatter, it converged, transforming from individuals into something greater than the sum of its parts. The Vrel collective had awakened humanity's oldest instinct: stand together or die alone. And in doing so, they had created something they could not have anticipated: a unified human species with a single purpose: survival. The stars seemed different now, the void between them no longer a barrier but a bridge across which humanity would forge its destiny. Whether that destiny led to peace or war would depend on what waited beyond the edge of known space. But one thing was certain: humanity was no longer merely exploring the galaxy. It was preparing to claim its place within it.